appreciation. We are entering the last session of Ancient Future Wisdom under the title, The Rites of Passage. It's been an amazing journey so far, from Africa to the world, to India, covering Asia. And now we're coming back and finishing first in Europe. And the closing session, last but not least, comes from somebody who initiated the global view. Yuko sent me a message. He says, we are after global civilization, and I propose that we have global sessions, that we can start feeling as one. And Yuko, you got it. And the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I just want to first say hi, everyone. Hi. Good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you are, time of the day. And I got inspired by Nikki's comment about laughter, so I'm gonna make a silly face. So if you want to make a silly face with me, let's do it. 2, 3. Great. Wonderful. You're a beautiful people. Yeah, my name is Yuko, and I am currently based in New York. And thank you, Violetta, for listening to my idea about let's do a global perspective. I think we're all global citizens, and global can mean everything and anything. And I am so excited to have wonderful friends, beautiful speakers, and people who have such a beautiful wisdom within them. So welcome to Global Session. And before we dive into that, I would like to invite Alexandra Cumming. She was supposed to be joining by virtual, but she's here with us. So she is going to be guiding us through a beautiful meditation. Alex, take it away.
Great day, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I came in on the tail end of the conversation and sounds very delightful, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Yuko. Thank you for the invitation. And my name is Alexandra Cummins, but you can all call me Alex. And I am Central Florida based by way of New York City. I am a first-generation Afro-Cuban Dominican American. And I'm going to lead us into a very brief meditation to just reimagine and visualizing those that came before us being the bridge of that, and who we get to be for the future, right? For the potential of the future generations to come. And so wherever you are in the world, I'm happy that you're here, and I invite you to get comfy. I invite you to get comfy, however that looks like for you, sitting down, laying down. Maybe you want to stand up and allow the wall to support you. Invite anything that reminds you of who you are in the world. Invite, that can be an object, that can be a thought, that can be a scent. Invite something in your space in this moment that reminds you of those that came before you, or who you're choosing to be in this moment. And as we gather today as a global community, I just want us to just take a deep inhale, collective inhale through the nose, a deep one. And slowly exhale through the mouth. You can do that 2 more times if that feels good for you. Deep inhale through the nose. And a long, slow exhale. Once again, deep inhale. And long exhale. You can soften your gaze here. You can close your eyes, or you can keep them open. Whatever feels good to you. And as you deeply inhale and connect with the rhythm of your breath, I invite you to connect with the energy of those that came before you. Maybe you met them in real time. Maybe you never got to meet them. Maybe you heard beautiful stories, wise stories, funny stories, witty stories of those that came before you. And those beautiful stories just left a big imprint on your heart. Those that came before you and the stories that they share or that you've heard of, perhaps it has molded you into the human that you are in this moment. Perhaps you've taken that wisdom and embraced that wisdom in this very moment and carried it on. Perhaps that wisdom, you kept it really close to your heart. And now you're ready to share it and pay it forward to those that are experiencing you at this moment. And if this feels good to you, you can place a palm on your heart and one on your belly. Palms on maybe both palms on the heart, maybe both palms on the belly, whatever feels good for you. And I just want to invite you to imagine yourself standing strong, 10 toes down. And imagine yourself and these roots and branches just connected to your physical body, but also extending towards the earth and your surroundings. These roots and branches is extending because you are bridging the gap from your past, your present, and your future. The roots are extending because it's a reminder of those that came before you, those that share wisdom and light and truth. And as you stand 10 toes down in your current energy, in your personal energy, you're experiencing inspiration. You're inspired by the knowledge and the wisdom that was passed down to you, and also feeling confident in the knowledge and wisdom that you have, with excitement and joy to share with those that are currently in your life and those that you get to impact in the future. I want you to continue to connect with your breath here, with each deep inhale, taking in all of that wisdom from the past, present, and future. Slowly exhale, sending gratitude and confidence into your inner and outer world. Giving thanks to yourself, giving thanks to all of the beautiful, beautiful wisdom and beautiful existence that you are in this moment. Think back to a time when you were challenged, your culture was challenged, your wisdom was challenged, your appearance was challenged, your intellect was challenged, your faith was challenged. Think of all of those things. And imagine your ancestors, those that came before you, how they would have handled those things. that resilience that's embedded in us to move forward, knowing that we have an opportunity to stand 10 toes down and choose wisdom, inner wisdom, the wisdom that no one can ever take away from you. And as you reflect on those challenging times and reflect on the past, present, and future, I want to leave you with a question that you can take with you for this session, or perhaps you want to carry it over and pass it along to someone in your life. Who am I? Who am I today? Because of all of those who came before me. Who am I today? Because I get to be the bridge for those that will come after me. Deep inhale through the nose, filling yourself up with the energy of the past, present, and future. And then exhale, gratitude, confidence, and joy, and remembering. And if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them. Present moment, maybe check out your surroundings. Maybe you want to rub your hands. Maybe you're holding an object. Just take a moment to maybe look at the screen and see who's here with you. Perhaps you see your reflection, right? Maybe you want to look closer to the screen and maybe look into someone's eyes. Maybe they remind you of your past ancestors or present ancestors or future ancestors. Thank you. Much love.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was beautiful. And I feel so much more grounded. And what a beautiful question. Ancient future wisdom, rite of passage. And she started with the question of who am I? Who am I? And I also want to add, who do we get to be because of the ancestors that we have received our wisdom from? And yeah, before I introduce the speakers, I'm a Japanese person who currently lives in New York, but my parents and my family lives in Japan. They don't speak a word of English. So just to think that the evolution, but because I am not in Japan right now, I get to learn the beauty of my ancestor and the culture that I didn't get to discover when I lived there. So I believe that one of the connection and reason that I invited these incredible speakers are we are all have the commonality and shared experience of what does it look like when you are home away from home? What does it look like when you're in the place that where your ancestors are not geographically or culturally? How do we learn that? And what kind of ancestor and legacy do we want to live for our generations to come? I think that's something that we talked about when we met prior to this session. So with that being said, I want to bring up each speaker, and I will put in the chat their detailed bio so they can read it, so the speakers can have more time to share their bit. And Kristen Cabildo, I would love to bring her up. Kristen, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored to be a part of this global conversation. Thank you, Yuko, for that introduction and for setting the stage So my name is Kristen Cabildo. I am a martial art instructor, personal trainer, and trauma-informed social worker. I am also the founder of the Chrysalis Kali Collective, and this is a group for the Philippine X community to explore Kali, or Filipino martial arts, as an embodied decolonization practice. So primarily this group I started for Filipino women, femme non-binary folk, because we, many of us just, don't have exposure or the access to train in martial arts. It's been primarily male-dominated sport. But it's been a way for us who are in the diaspora to reconnect meaningfully to our ancestry in the Philippines. So I don't know if you're aware, but the Philippines has a history of 350 years under Spanish colonization, 50 years under American colonization. So, those of us who have grown up in the diaspora have really been feeling kind of like we're the generation that has the space, the time, the privilege to process a lot of intergenerational trauma that's been coming up for us in our bodies. So the Chrysalis Kali Collective that I started, the name Chrysalis is symbolic for this container of transformation. So, but we're also strengthening and conditioning our bodies. We're learning the ways of our warrior ancestry. It's a way for us to dive deeper into the stories that are alive in our bodies, and then to also feel inspired by how our ancestors survived. So, one of our things that we talk about is, what does it mean to be a warrior today, right? The warrior archetype has historically, been oppressive, right? So, but our indigenous ancestors who are warriors were in tune with nature. There was a resiliency that they were in tune with that we're trying to get in touch with. And so we're redefining warrior. What does it look like to be in our bodies, to get in touch with this inner wisdom of our nervous systems? So we're unpacking the body knowledge of our sensations, our emotions, and we're looking at all of the things that arise in our body as these gateways into the stories that we've inherited, the stories that are alive within us. And then through the practice of training, through the practice of coming together, through the practice of reflecting on all of these things that are coming up in our bodies as we train, we're rewriting a new narrative, essentially. So instead of getting stuck in the past or romanticizing the past, we're truly moving into thriving, moving from survive to thrive. We are rewriting each of our lives as inspired by our warrior heritage, but also representing our unique experience living in the diaspora. So, one of the things that I think is common for those of us with mixed heritage who are looking for or searching for this feeling of home is finding home within ourselves, finding home within each other, and knowing that we're kind of this new tribe, right? That, home, we can feel and heal our like longing for home, right? If we can go back to the motherland, but ultimately we're learning how to create new containers of home and belonging in our communities now. So that's the work that I'm doing that I'm really excited about. This, being able to rewrite the narratives that are alive in our body, and to, really feel that that, the legacy of our warring ancestors is to become the warriors that our world needs today. And a lot of that has to do with, learning how to navigate the social justice issues that are coming up today in the world, to learn how to navigate and heal, any mental health issues that are coming up for us, right? So our battles aren't the same as our warrior ancestors, but we have the capacity to rise up to the new challenges that our generations are facing today. So I would love to add a somatic component to this if everybody is open to it. Just because I'm a movement person, and I would love to just show you a part of the Filipino martial arts. Filipino martial arts is practiced by everybody of all backgrounds, and the art, I believe, is alive, right? So it's constantly evolving, and it's constantly changing and shifting and adapting to the issues that are for our generation. So I'd love to share the salutation that we do for our practice, and you're welcome to also participate if you would like. You would need a little bit of room and an improvised weapon, which would mean you can grab a pen, you can grab a ruler. In Filipino martial arts, we view anything can be a weapon. So this gives you a flexibility of mindset in your environment to know that you're not a victim, that anything, once you learn the techniques, anything can be a weapon. So grab something that is, accessible, amazing. And I'm gonna grab a practice sword to make some space. And you can follow along, you can do it with me. So this is my practice blade. I am going to, I'm going to step back with my right foot. I'm going to kneel to the ground. I place the blade along my forehead. And these are the words. We do recite an oración or a prayer before we train. And as I come with an open heart and an open mind. I acknowledge the hand of friendship is greater than the hand of war. And I take what I learn into my heart and mind, and may we shed no blood. So just to show you the symbolism in movement, right? And how when we move, we are internalizing and we can set an intention for our training and to further embody our values. And so when the blade is across the forehead, it is symbolizing touching the third eye. So I come with an open heart and an open mind. The hand represents the hand of friendship, and it is above the blade, which represents, war, right? So I acknowledge that the hand of friendship is greater than the hand of war. And then I take what I learn into my heart and mind. So this is a triangle. So in our art, triangles are everywhere, and they represent like mind, body, spirit. And then may we shed no blood. So that is the salutation that we do. And I just thought it was appropriate to share, right? Like what you're learning here, come with an open heart and open mind, right? We're valuing the hand of friendship. Global friendship is greater than war and fighting. And that what we take what we learn and we really internalize it. And may we shed no blood. And that's the prayer that my lineage, says before we train. And I hope, that's how we're redefining warrior for the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen.
May I
Beautiful.
write the lyrics into the chat, please?
Thanks, Violeta. Yes, that would be amazing. I wonder who is the first time you did that, aside from Kristen. Anybody done this before? No, I don't think so. I've never done it. So those are really cool. And then we get to learn things together and grow together. And so I would love to bring back who we already met, who earlier guided us through a beautiful meditation, Alexandra Cummings. Alex, floor is yours.
Hey everybody, it's me again, Alex. So I hope you guys enjoy the meditation. And you take what you needed from it, and that it trickles throughout your day. I am the founder of Refining Emotional Wellness, and Refining Emotional Wellness is a trauma-informed and transformation space for people of the global majority to learn and to be nourished through mindfulness and holistic ancient practices. And when I started Refining Emotional Wellness, it really came from like my triggers and my personal experiences with depression and anxiety. At a very young age, I was diagnosed with depression, and I think in college, I was diagnosed with anxiety. And like I mentioned, I'm first generation Afro-Cuban Dominican, and that was just unheard of, not talked about in my culture, in my neighborhood, in my community. When it came to feelings, when it came to sharing personal business, that was just not something that you share within your groups. And what I learned in my personal journey is that actually creates more harm than anything. And so with a lot of, like repressing those emotions, I started acting out. I started acting out, and I started self-medicating because I felt like whatever I was experiencing, it was just too much to bear. And in the 90s, when I was diagnosed, we didn't have the resources that we have now, right? I think that we're very privileged to have a lot of resources and ways to understand more about what trauma means, right? And how we can regulate our nervous systems, and how we can choose different modalities to support us, along with talk therapy and things in that nature. And I think I was the first one in my family to come out, right? And come out and say, hey, I'm depressed. And I think that made a lot of people uncomfortable in my family. My mom is from Havana, Cuba. And so her way of raising us was very strict. I used to call her Fidel Castro because I thought that she was very unfair to me and my sisters growing up. But I understood her come from. I understood that she wanted to protect us and things in that nature, but she was not very equipped. And my dad and her divorce, and he wasn't equipped to support me and my other siblings on how to be connected with our emotions, to talk about our emotions and come together as a family. And so experiencing mental health challenges and getting medication prescribed, and experiencing 7 days at a psych ward, and just trying to figure out like what's going on, I realized that I had to create the support that I needed, because no one knew how to support me. And I decided that I was going to talk about it. And that required for me to be courageous, because again, it was not something that we spoke about at home. I didn't speak about this with my friends. And when I realized talking about being depressed and what that means for me, not taking showers, committing to something and then just like last minute pulling out from my commitments, sometimes even high functioning depressed, thriving at the workplace and coming home and maybe emotionally eating. Like there was just so many different nuances in my personal experience. And so when I started sharing about mental health, I started sharing it on Facebook, and I will write poetry. I wouldn't write specifically what I was personally going through, but I will write in a way that generalized my experience. And I noticed that a lot of people resonated with what I was writing. And the common thread was, I feel the same way. I feel like you're speaking to me. I feel like you are in my private space and you're speaking to what I'm experiencing. And so I said, wow, then I'm not the only one going through this, because, I don't know if anyone can identify with depression here, but I know for me, when I was in depression, in that vortex of depression, I felt like I was the only one and no one understood anything that I was experiencing. But as I kept sharing and I kept creating the conversation, I noticed that I wasn't alone. And then I just started to build community in that way, because community was something that I really didn't have growing up. Growing up was, for me, a little different when it comes to my culture and my heritage, because my mom coming from Cuba and coming to the US for the American dream, for that freedom, my mom never really spoke about Cuba and never shared with us about what it means to be Cuban and to have that Cuban pride. I had to actually learn that on my own. And so community wasn't really a thing growing up. So I had to learn how to build community, and I built it through my personal triggers, through depression, and through those stories that I will write about on social media. I realized that there was a conflict though, because I started to trauma bond with people. And I said, okay, well, this is not working, because now I feel even more sad. I'm doing this to actually heal, but I feel more sad because I'm bonding with other people that resonate with this. There's something that I get to do differently, because if I'm going to be the bold one to step out and share that this is a problem for our communities, because I'm noticing that everyone else is not able to talk about it in their communities, then I need to be bold and figure something out for myself, and hopefully people would follow. And so I stepped out and started seeing therapy, and I started sharing that process with people, not getting too detailed, but just sharing like, okay, this is my process. This is what I do. I learned how to meditate when I was 16. I went to Catholic school, so that's where I learned how to meditate. So I remember how present I felt meditating. So I brought meditation into my practice as I was healing through the depression and all of those things. And when I realized that talk therapy, I can integrate it with meditation. Oh my God, I don't only have to depend on talk therapy. I can actually do mindfulness. Oh wow, I can actually practice more holistic things. And I can actually, healthcare and holistic care can coexist. Oh wow, I can actually make some herbs from my culture to heal my physical body and to sustain my health. I started putting these pieces together, and I realized that all along I had all, like the cliche, the answers inside of me. I actually did. And I kept being bold, and I kept trusting myself, even through the breakdowns, the emotional and mental health breakdowns. I had to trust myself. And I give thanks to those that came before me, because when I speak to my mom now about my personal experience, she would say that growing up, there was no time to talk about feelings. So for me to do that now is very uncomfortable, but noticing that there's healing there. So when I heal, my mom heals. When I choose to heal, my sisters heal, and I noticed this pattern with my community, that it was the same thing. People wanted to learn and wanted to heal and wanted to go to therapy and wanted to be nourished, but it wasn't modeled to them. And so creating these communities for people to have vulnerable conversations was the start. And then I went on to, educate myself and become more trauma informed, and to really connect to these holistic practices like mindfulness, like yoga, like somatics, like energy work, so that I can support myself. I believe that it's important to try the things first before sharing with the world. And I also believe in the same breath that you can still be a hot mess and support people throughout the world with being authentic and being yourself. And so for me, that's what worked for me. And that's what helped me support and serve my community, by being authentic, by being honest, by being vulnerable, and by saying, you know what, healthcare and holistic care can coexist. And you have the power and the autonomy to make that happen, because those that came before us didn't have the autonomy to say what they wanted to say so freely, especially in a place like Cuba, right? And so when I can think back of the natural remedies and all of those wonderful things from my heritage and my ancestors, I can take that with me now and honor that, right? But when it comes to using my voice, that was the difference, right? They weren't able to use their voice. My mom wasn't able to use her voice. My ancestors weren't able to use their voice, but they were resourceful and they built on natural resources. So I see the difference, and I want to continue to honor what it means to be holistic and bring that into the space and remind people that no matter where they are in life and in the world, that they can choose holistic. And they can also choose traditional methods of healing. It can coexist, and you can create that for yourself. And by sharing your truth is also not only healing yourself, but it's also setting someone else free, so they can share their story and that they can rise up to the occasion. And so my work is an extension of me, and I take pride of my work, and my work excites me. And it's beautiful to support the younger generation where my work started. I started with young people in New York City public schools with no license, with no certifications of being a social worker or mental health provider. It was because I lived the experience since a child. And so to be able to create the spaces and create these workshops for these young kids, it really set the tone of how I wanted to continue my work. And I wanted it to be multi-generational, not just for young people, but for their parents, so they can connect with their parents, and have those deep conversations around mental wellness, because it's what's destroying my community. We're choosing not to speak about it, and it's killing us. And my goal by 2025 or sooner is to build 100 or more trauma-informed families to be able to self-heal and heal each other through the modalities of yoga and energy healing and just trauma-informed language. I think that these little things can go a long way, and I can't do this alone. And so to close this out, my work is an extension of my triggers. And when I asked the question during the meditation, who am I? I hope that it brings you more clarity to reflect on that question for the rest of the day. Because I'm the same person here and the same person as I run my business, the same person I am with my family, my husband, my friends. I can't switch it up. I have to be me all the time. And that set me free. I no longer identify with depression. And that's bold to say. But I think that at the age of 42 and dealing with this for most of my life, I deserve to break free from that. And I think it's very possible, because as we're speaking, therapy is also being decolonized, because that system doesn't work either. And so I close with saying thank you for listening, and reflect on that question, who am I? There's no right or wrong answer to that. And take care of yourselves. Appreciate y'all for listening.
Thank you so much for the powerful share. And it's so incredible. And like earlier in the session talked about action in addition to talking about it, right? And Alex is walking the talk, and she's declaring all of that. So if anybody wants to collaborate, just reach out to her and start do this work together. And last but not least, I would love to pass the baton to Taees Gheirati. She's a wonderful, wonderful friend that I'm excited to collaborate with her again. I can't wait to hear what her experience with her recent project. So please, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yuko. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Hi, Violetta. Miss you all so much. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. It was great. I resonate with your feelings a lot. And I also found meditation and yoga very, very helpful. And thanks a lot, Kristen, for your great insights. It was great hearing everything you said. So I'm Tatis. I'm an ethnomusicologist. I came here to Canada 5 years ago from Iran to continue my studies. So it's a totally different world. At the beginning, I was so busy getting adapted to this new fast-paced environment I had faced with. I was experiencing a lot of different and mixed feelings, like anxiety, social anxiety, and a lot of these things, which is common when you immigrate, you know. But loss of identity was the most important one that I faced with. Last year, I had the chance to go back to Iran to do my field work for the program I was in. I stayed there for a year, and I could regulate my feelings there. I talk a little bit more about this. As you might know, it was a strange year in Iran because of the woman life freedom protest going on. And we, like people in Iran, besides all other demands they had from the inefficient government, they had this gender equity demand because of the 40 plus years of suppression of the people of Iran, especially women and the LGBTQ plus community. I could say it was the first time in 40 plus years that the people of Iran from all cultures, all communities, races, genders, ethnicities, and even religions became one and shout out their need for freedom. Now, in this unique time, I was working on the music of the women in eastern parts of Khorasan, which is a province near Afghanistan in Iran. Women live a very secluded life in this region because of all the religious and patriarchal rules. Besides the restrictions that government put on female musicians in general, and that they're not allowed to sing, and in some places even play music in public. In this specific region, women are often expected to fulfill specific roles and responsibilities like just motherhood, feeding the family, and so on. And their participation in public cultural activities is often limited. Although I come from a very open family, I could find connection with this culture. I could see why I am so reserved and have difficulty always to find my voice in a more open setting like Canada. I have always learned if you want to be accepted and respected in the society, you have to be obedient and modest. Even as an Iranian classical musician, I learned to stick to the rules of tradition to be an authentic musician. Now that I moved to Canada, I always ask myself, what is authenticity? If a person who carries the elements of a certain culture and tradition get exposed to a new culture or a multicultural environment like the internet itself, what happens to their identity? What happens to their authenticity? If that person wants to or has to practice life in a combined way, in a fused way, isn't that authentic anymore? Can an artist who pushes the boundaries of a genre experiment with new elements and bring fresh perspectives to their art be seen as authentic in their creative expression? Isn't authenticity associated with sincerity, honesty, and being true to one's own vision? I think as long as your work aligns and your life actually aligns with your true identity and you have that integrity, as Alex said, you can be your true self in every role that you are in. I think you're in the path of authenticity. And instead of getting stuck in the past, as Kristen mentioned. So yes, my biggest challenge to embrace the complexity of the culture, of my own culture, is finding my true self and my authentic voice as a musician and a human being. But at the same time, I have to say that I love my heritage. I can find my roots there. When I went back to Iran this last year, it was the first time in a while that I felt grounded again. My feelings were settled, and you know what I mean. I felt at home. I had the chance to look around with wider eyes and immerse myself in the culture I was far from for a while. I could feel the amazing people I was working with from bottom of my heart. I admired the women who were trying hard to expand their limited spaces, to follow their dreams and not to lose hope. The music I learned there strengthened my roots. The poetry, which is the fundamental part of the music I was working with, reconnected me to my ancestors and healed my feelings. All the details in the songs aligned with my view of the world and how I think about humanity, about love, and the connection to the broader world. This was a great opportunity for me to look inside again and acknowledge the source of my growth and getting better in adapting and changing in response to all this globalization and modernization that is happening right now, and balancing tradition with the demands of the world we live in today. What I would love to share with the future generation is that I believe we should embrace our experiences while staying connected to our roots. Our identity is intertwined with our cultural legacy. Without it, we may feel lost. At the same time, embracing our present self brings life, brings creativity and openness to the new experiences of the world we live in.
Thank you, Tatis. I can't wait to see all your project.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such a beautiful thing to see how music and every culture has the thing that you can embody or anything that you don't know how to describe it, but the moment that you hear the drum beat and you start to resonate within your body, I'm pretty sure that happens in every culture, right? Like no matter where you are, you're in Iran, you're in Japan, you're in Cuba, and you're in the Philippines, and what each culture has that music and the dance and the movement and the rich thing that's been inherited, like that live within our body, and being able to learn that it's such a gift. And I know that we have only a few minutes left, but I would love for anyone, after hearing all these beautiful share, has anybody thought about the answer or spark more curiosity to what Alex proposed in the beginning of the session? Who am I? I want to open that up for anyone's here right now. If anybody's open to answering that question. Violetta.
I mean, I want to continue with the session now. We just started. I wonder, I mean, I have a question for all of you. You're all representatives of younger generations. I wonder, I mean, in your process and search for connection with your roots, what does a ritual mean to you? I mean, is it necessary? Have you encountered serious old rituals in order to go through different stages in your life? Is that just a cultural characteristic for you? How do you relate to that?
I can chime in about that just because I did share the salutation, which is, you know, a prayer. We called it an oración. But one of the things that we did in my collective, so the one that I shared with you is the one that was passed on to me from my instructor. But one of the things that we did in my group is we created our own. So we, you know, said, each one of us created a line that represented our connection with nature, that, you know, represented our connection with energies of masculine and feminine, things that resonated with us for our generation. And, you know, part of the project is we're going to create our own movements to that oración, that prayer. And so it's like, again, like being inspired by the rituals that our ancestors had, but making them our own. Yeah, just really seeing those apply to us in our lives. And that's what, you know, the training in and of itself, the practice of martial arts, I feel like every time we train is a ritual of gratitude to send to our ancestors to thank them for surviving so we might be alive today. So yeah.
Well, for me, I love to keep the ritual of like what Saturday mornings represented in my childhood. And I just started to like refine that for me now. And like in any like Latinx household, Saturday mornings is where you play loud salsa music and you clean your house. You're in action, you're cleaning your house, and you're just, you know, creating that beautiful cleanliness atmosphere. And so that's something that I still carry over in a way. I'm not consistent, but that's something that definitely the music has to be on, because music creates so much joy and healing. Another ritual that I'm very much connected because it is part of my cultura, my culture, is an offering to the mother of the sea. And so although you know, spirituality is very, very important to me, and growing up in a household where we practice Catholicism and we also practice the religion of Santeria, is something that I grew up. And although I'm not initiated in any of those things, I still very much carry that ritual of honoring the mother of the sea. Her name is Yemaya, and she's just the mother of the sea. She's the mother, the queen, and she nourishes and protects her children. And I think of my mother, right, where she was a single parent and she nourished us and she protected us. And she's very much a queen. And so when I can create time to practice that ritual. You know, nature is something is part of how I heal, especially being by the ocean. I live 7 minutes away from the beach at that. And so I really make a commitment to, you know, provide an offering to Yemaya, and being at the beach is a time for me to reflect, right? Allowing the ocean to hold space for me. Because at the end of the day, nature just wants love and respect from us. That's my belief. But nature holds a space for us. And so my ritual really is to go to the ocean and let my worries out, cry it out, whatever I need to do, and offer something back to Yemaya. And that could be like a piece of watermelon, some flowers, and just send it to the ocean, and letting her know that I appreciate her holding the space in the ocean for me to be free and to flow and take life a little like, you know, flow and not really let the rocks control me, you know, because at the end of the day, we know that water flows and we have no control. We can't grasp water. So my ritual for me is remembering that I don't have control over the things that I cannot control, but knowing that I can flow. And by flowing is also honoring and offering something in return.
I can say something here. For me, ritual is kind of a habit that gives meaning to my life. For example, if the new year happens and I don't do the rituals of my ancestors, it doesn't mean the same for me anymore. If even with mourning, even like with crying, even with everything that I have, I just get connected directly to my roots. When I feel deep, when I want to feel deep in life, it automatically just connects me to my roots. I don't decide for it. And it's like, for example, if it's morning, it's day, you have the daylight, and you go to sleep, and it's night when you wake up. How you feel? You feel lost all of a sudden. Ritual for me is having those habits and just sticking to them to like create points in my life, and to give meaning to the time that I live in.
Thank you so much, Ritual.
And
I
you,
love-
about you.
Yeah. Thanks, Violeta. Before I share about my ritual, we're also doing a water arts and culture session on Wednesday. So please come join us. That'll be beautiful too. And for me, guys, we have to embrace food, right? We love food, so let's do with that. For me, in Japanese culture, before the meal, we'll say itadakimasu, which means thank you for the blessing of this food. And after finishing the meal, we'll say gochisou sama deshita. Again, thank you so much for this blessing of this food, and thank you for your hospitality. So it's different from the food setting, but I just want to say, especially for the speakers, Kristen, Taees, and Alexandra, thank you so much. And thank you, organizers, Violeta, Alexander, and everyone who got involved in this. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. And with that being said, I would love to pass it to, I believe Robert is the next host. And the floor is yours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Yuko, to you and the entire team. This was a very deep and special session. And this was also the last in the row of Ancient Future Wisdoms on the topic, the rites of passage. Thank you very much. Back to you, Ramit.